Stop the press. For the third or fourth time in 500 plus days, Reading Football Club are entering another period of exclusivity, but this time it could actually be real. A takeover is on the horizon. Here to talk both news today, breaking news this afternoon, just as we're about to go live, is not only Ross Webber as always, but Sell Before We Die stalwart and, it's Tilehurst and legend really, alumni. Adam Jones once again is back on the pod, but this time with a bit of good news, a bit of glimmer in the mud. What are we saying?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's we prepared kind of for this pod on Sunday or Saturday when there was kind of no good news on the horizon. So the fact that this exclusivity period has come about is a bit of a bonus for us, but always happy to be back on the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we had planned it. I got the agenda all sorted, believe it or not, and Reading Football Club at 4:30 drop a literary bombshell, which we're going to go through with the fine tooth comb.
They dropped it for us, right for our recording session, which was very, very nice. If you've ever wondered if we're too much in the club's pocket, dear listeners, yes, the answer is correct. Yes, that is exactly right.
Ross, how are you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. They opened up a British restaurant in Portland, Maine. So that's been the main thing on my brain in the last few weeks. And
what does that say?
I'm thinking about it. But get this, it's called The Continental, which it doesn't seem very British to me.
It's the hotel from John Wick, and I finished the John Wicks.
Oh, you finished your John Wicks. All right, very good. Which one was your favourite in the end?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll talk about John Wick later. But let's hop back on in while we've got Adam here.
Episode 409, the Tilehurst podcast, proudly sponsored as always by ZCZ Films. We're gonna get straight into it. This statement that has dropped. So let's do it in the recap, if you want to call it that. Right, welcome to episode 409. Here with myself and Ross is Adam Jones. I'm just trying to find this statement. I bookmarked it earlier. So, big news. All right, we are here to talk about the petition that's
smashing the table.
But I'm going to read part. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's there, and if you're living under a rock, then you won't care anyway. But Reading Football Club can confirm it has committed to a letter of intent with a potential purchaser of the club. Here's the most interesting part now. The club can confirm the agreed sale includes the transfer of Mr. Dye's shareholding in the Reading Football Club Limited, as well as the stadium and Bearwood Park training facility. So the whole kit and caboodle with this now, okay? Whilst timelines cannot be guaranteed, the structure of the deal should allow for a quick completion. Adam, only one place to start, really. The phrase quick completion. Do you believe it?
Yes. Like a lot of people on social media, this feels a lot different this time, and it's weird to say that because we had a picture of with many pictures actually of Rob Couhig, one in the purple turtle, where it felt like it was inevitable that he would take over. But the fact that this seems to have been done like so professionally gives me a little bit of hope, because this kind of came out of the blue, really. I mean, there was like the odd 1 or 2 rumors kind of flying about, but this kind of deal seems to have been done pretty professionally. There wasn't much said about that. Nigel Howe's been behind the scenes, kept things quiet and tight, it seems, and this is exactly what he should have been doing for ages, but never mind. But I do feel a little bit hopeful. I think the phrasing as well in the club statement was very it kind of like raised my curiosity. It was like, this will benefit both parties or something like that. And I thought that was quite interesting. So it'll be interesting to see whether a deal follows in the coming weeks. It does feel like weeks rather than months, judging by that statement. But we've been in, as you say, 3 or 4 exclusivity periods now, and we need to just keep going now until the sale is done.
I mean, there aren't many nuggets flying around at the moment, which I think is probably a good thing, because we've all been, I got badly banned on this pod a number of times, but at least with the Coig thing, where it's like everything's American now,
You got to let the nuggets cool. before they come out the oven.
Exactly right. So we don't know who it is. That there aren't any rumours really that are kind of concrete that we can hold on to. But it does feel different this time, doesn't it? It feels like this has kind of almost come out of nowhere. The fact they're using the phrase "quick completion" is a departure from previous language. Ross, how do you feel about the kind of the last line being basically for everything to do with the club being sold to this one individual?
I mean, I think that there's, on the one hand, it is really exciting that it seems to have come out of nowhere, and it does seem somewhat professional in that it hasn't been leaked or, all these kinds of things. At the same time, I don't know how much we knew about the most recent exclusivity partner that was kind of announced right in the wake of Cohig not being a bidder for the club anymore. I could be wrong about how that all came together, but it is, I feel like we've seen it a little bit once before, but yeah, I agree that there's definitely within that statement, the club is addressing concerns that fans have had about the takeover before. And the question for me is whether that indicates that something has materially changed behind the scenes, or whether the club has got better at writing statements and the club has got better at keeping their ear to the ground on the actual points that we want to hear addressed. That's the question for me right now. I agree that this language is promising, and the question is this language promising because there's something going on behind the scenes, or is this language promising because the club have had over a year to learn how to talk to us about this situation and have maybe finally kind of worked out the best way to put this sort of communication out. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But you're right, it does look a little bit more exciting.
It's a good point about them talking to us in that way. I just don't think they would use the phrase "quick completion" if they weren't absolutely sure that this was going to be a
You're
pretty
right,
far.
but I never thought a man would be sitting in the director's box and shaking the hands of Reading fans if he wasn't then going to take over the club. So that's kind of, it's like everything with the Reading ownership crisis for me in the last 2 months has been, I've gone kind of numb to a lot of it, and almost like numb in a good way and numb in a bad way at the same time. Like I'm numb to when something exciting like this happens. I'm like, okay, cool. Like there's the skepticism part of me, obviously, but then also when something bad happens, it makes it a little bit easier to handle, obviously. But yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not as excited as some, but I'm not on Twitter, so maybe there's more excitement on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd say is enjoy exclusivity, but enjoy it by being
right. That's well put.
That's what you said last week, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, look, Adam, the thing I can't get away from, and I've said it 3 times, but quick completion to me means a number of things. A, the person is probably known. I say authorities, like they're some sort of criminal. I don't mean that, but like there is a theory that they've been kind of like got through this process before potentially, or are known to football bodies, and also that the money is quite possibly already in the UK.
Yeah, I think that's definitely I think it's a promising sign for me. If they were to write a statement of that, being that confident, they must be confident that those buyers will pass the OADT, the owners and directors tests. And if not, then they're silly to make that statement. That'd be like Kuig and the Purple Turtle when he hasn't got the deal over the line type thing.
And I just don't think they'd make that mistake again. I really don't.
Yeah, I think so. Because if this falls through, no one's going to believe anything anymore, and you'll have people on the pitch. So
and I think people would probably
things.
walk away in their numbers. If this one doesn't go through with that language, as you say, with the Cohig and the Purple Turtle as well. Although that was never done through the club, that was through his personal account. But even
that's going to be a folk tale in Reading for the next century. Rob Cohig and the Purple Turtle. It's the boy cry who cried wolf, but for Berkshire.
I mean, I could forgive the first one where he was standing outside that place with his family, because Di may have told him the first time, right, it's going to be done. But after that, and it not being done, surely you don't do that again. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Let's talk about stuff behind the scenes, really, because obviously, while this news is very welcome, there is still a campaign that's being waged, not just against our owner and his antics, or their antics rather, but also for the greater good of football, really, in terms of ownership and absent owners. A petition was launched on Friday and has gathered pace pretty quickly. Talk to us a little bit around where that came from, around kind of the purpose of it, and kind of where we're at with physical numbers in terms of signing that petition.
Yeah, so we have a little group with Yuan Yang, the MP, who pretty much set this all up. Some of our parliamentary team and some of kind of Sell Before We Die as well. So the parliamentary team put this idea together for us. We jumped on a call. I think it was literally a matter of days before it went live, and then we presented that to the rest of the Sell Before We Die group, and everyone was pretty much on board with that. And then we didn't really waste much time in kind of launching it. We knew that Birmingham City was, even though it's an early kickoff, it's going to be a fixture that a fair few came to. Obviously, Birmingham City have had ownership problems before, so that was obviously a good angle for us. That was a good kind of launch pad for us. Saturday, we saw that as a good launch pad for us. So we thought we'd get it kind of started ASAP, and obviously it could take a little while for an inquiry to happen anyway. So we thought get it started ASAP. Even the threat of an inquiry could have made a difference. So for us, it was important that we kind of started quickly and gathered momentum and kept it. Obviously, momentum kind of today, Monday, as we're speaking, has slowed down a little bit, but it's still gathering hundreds of signatures very, very quickly. So I'm pleased with the progress so far, and hopefully we can continue that, because it has to continue even with this exclusivity being announced.
And I guess really from a Parliament point of view, if this was put to government, surely there would be a number of employees from the club that would be called to share information about our our situation. Have you had any contact as a group with people from the club about this? Obviously they're not going to turn around and go, yeah, it's a great idea, but have you been met with resistance at all? Have you had anything back from them?
We haven't really met up with officials from the club. Obviously, I think the senior management team are probably in a fairly difficult position at the moment because they're still working probably for the CEO. So obviously they're in a difficult position. So we haven't really had much contact with them yet. But that was probably one of the key reasons behind the idea of the inquiry as well, was that some key figures could be summoned to Parliament to give evidence on this. Now, I'm not talking about your Jackie Evans, he probably does about 500 jobs at the club, who's been there years, fantastic servant. I'm not talking about Tim Kilpatrick, who's done a remarkable job, did a very good job on Elm Park Rolls the other day as well. I'm not talking about Graham O'Dell as well, who's clearly in a difficult position. I'm talking about Dayong Pang being summoned to Parliament. I mean, without being disrespectful and revealing too many details, I asked for that as well to happen when we met with the sports minister, for key figures like Dayong Pang to be summoned to Parliament. So the fact that could potentially happen is obviously great for us, and it's about time that they received a bit more kind of parliamentary scrutiny. So that's one of the key reasons why we've done it as well, and we really want those who were responsible for the demise of the club to be held to account. And and that's one of the other reasons why we wanted to do this petition. Now, usually I'd look at a petition and go, what's that going to do? But when you kind of think about it and when you look behind the reasons why we're doing it, I think it's a worthwhile cause. And obviously it's not the only thing that we're doing as well. We're going down several avenues. Now, with exclusivity, that probably has to be altered a little bit. It's not exactly going to be business as usual, but we're not going to stop either. But this is kind of just one of multiple avenues that we're pursuing at the moment. I've got so many group chats, it's unreal kind of for different types of things. So this is one kind of worthy avenue that we're going down, and I'm pleased with the petition's progress so far.
Ross, if you were not a fan of Reading Football Club and there was a club that would deem to be a rival putting this petition out, Would you sign it?
I mean, I think so. Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I think that part of like having a rival is that they have to exist so that you can compete with them. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, almost I would be more invested in having my rival, like survive than having, I don't know, what's the most boring club in the country? Burnley survive or like whatever, like I don't think, but I'm being facetious, but yeah, yeah, I think anyone, I think that we've seen that in the last few years with the Super League reaction and a few other things that fans do come together when it comes to a whole football issue. It is very much a us versus the ownership and the TV sort of media
Yeah,
empire. I feel like with those battle lines have been drawn in the last kind of 5 to 10 years and were really kind of set in place during the Super League rollout, which is back, by the way. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's where we're at. So yeah, if Swindon were going out of business or whatever, then yeah, I definitely back movements to try and keep them around, because we just don't want any other club to go through what we've been through. I think that like this
exactly.
experience should kind of just show us how bad this can be, and how I think how alienating and how lonely it can be, because it can, like obviously there have been times when we've been able to drive large media attention and Sell Before We Die and Adam have been awesome with that, but also there have been long periods of time where it feels like not a whole lot is happening,
Yeah,
hence the kind of going numb strategy. So yeah, I think that if there's anything we take from this as Reading fans, hopefully it's new ownership, and then after that, it's an understanding of other clubs' ownership struggles in the future.
yeah, definitely.
I think it's been interesting to see some of the reaction from fans of different clubs. Like Birmingham, for example, there was quite a few people. Well, no one helped us when we were going through it, so why should we bother? And it's just you. I think you learn a lot about different clubs and kind of collective responsibility of fans in general. And yeah, I'd agree with you, Ross. I think if it was anything, even when Portsmouth, I put money in a bucket and tried to help them out, and
Yeah.
it's quite telling that there are a lot of clubs around there. Crystal Palace, have been pretty good, I think, to my knowledge. I think there's a guy called Sam Shelterline, is it, who's kind of done the rounds and really like pushed it out to lots of different clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been interesting to see the reaction. Adam, do you know kind of off the top of your head how many rival fans in inverted commas have signed it? Is it mainly coming from Reading, or is that kind of information not shared
Um,
with the petition?
I don't have access to that data, but from being like social media admin for for Sell Before We Die, I've seen fans of so many other clubs that have put pen to paper on this on the petition. It's been so heartening to see. Now, you're absolutely right. I've seen there's this guy called Tom Gary who put a tweet out and got a lot of negative reactions. But there's also a part of me that feels like X is not really representative of fans either, because we had a lot of fans, Birmingham fans, come down on Saturday, and they were as good as gold. They signed the petition. I think people on social media, they feel like that they can just say anything they want behind a computer screen, and that's why we've had so many kind of negative comments. But fair play to 95% of fans; they've been as good as gold, really. And I'd welcome petition signatures from any kind of fan base. Oxford United, they marched with us during the Thames Valley Royal protests. You've got Swindon Town, who are going through it with Clem Morfuni at the moment, and all other fans as well. Port Vale have been fantastic. Brighton and Hove Albion have stepped up again, which is brilliant.
That's who I was just gonna
Yeah,
call out too. Yeah, am I making stuff up in my head thinking that Adam, is it your is your yes, definitely, but is your banner at the ground the football has an ownership problem one?
yeah. So I think that belongs to one of Sell Before We Die person's brother. I'm led to believe. So yeah, that's
I've written. I just love that.
kind of one of ours, but
I
kind of
like
not.
that. I like that banner. It always stands out to me on the when they do the pan around the stadium. I feel like for some reason I feel like Brighton had been using that language at times, or some of their support.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good tag along to have, and it's kind of it's also a potential banner that we could potentially pass on to other clubs. Other clubs could borrow in the future. Say so. obviously it's up to the person owning it, but no, I think that would be a fantastic idea, and be interesting to see, how long the conversation carries on after Sale Before We Die is potentially finished, and we potentially, fingers crossed, have a sale. But yeah, let's see. Let's get over the line, and then we'll see. I'm kind of not looking too far ahead at the moment. It's just at the short term, because we've been here before, but hopefully we'll be able to get a deal over the line.
My brain just immediately started thinking, like, how quickly do we stop thinking about ownership after we have a new owner, in inverted commas,
yes.
And like whether that would depend on how well we play. But I'm like, you know what, steady on, Ross. Let's take a few steps back.
Yeah, I think from my end, I think Sale Before We Die has probably got to come to an end at some. It's been nearly 2 years now, and I think a lot of people were just really, really exhausted from it, to be honest with you, unsurprisingly. I think a lot of that stuff will pass to STAR. Obviously, I do the football governance stuff now, so I can kind of help out other fans of other football clubs when I've kind of finished with Sale Before We Die. I think that's something that we can definitely do. We could even potentially get a group of people in STAR doing that. So, yeah, but again, I'm not looking too far ahead at this stage.
One thing, just thinking for the future, though, without looking too far ahead, I think when we had you and Greg on, maybe in December, you had a good chat about Yuan Yang, and it sounds like she's been really involved with the petition again. It seems to me like that, we hopefully won't run into, ownership crises again during her term, but it sounds like that's been good relationships built between sort of local politicians and the local groups in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault any of the local politicians that have kind of been involved in this campaign. I think we had 5 MPs at the December meeting with Steph Peacock, and they were all engaged, all on kind of asking questions, all knowledgeable. So fair play to them. But Yuan Yang has gone the extra mile for us. She's been nothing short of remarkable. I think whilst a lot of other MPs have been kind of helping to raise awareness of the issue, and we're so grateful for that, she's actually been trying to dig her heels into the sale and kind of really try and make a difference. And you know what, I can't fault her at all. She's been absolutely fantastic. I can't talk her up enough either, because she's had calls with us. She had a call with us back in January, and she's just been completely on it, and I'm really grateful for her support on this, because without her support we wouldn't have got this petition off the ground and going. She's become a really respected figure, and fair play to her.
Final question, Adam. What are we on numbers-wise for the petition at the moment?
So I just checked with one of Yuan's parliamentary assistants. At the time of recording, which is 8:45, we've passed the 9,000 mark. So I put a post out on social media saying how many reposts can we get to really push this over the line. So we're 90% of the way there. We're aiming for 10,000, but after that, we're aiming for more. We want to make this case, our case, as strong as we can, to kind of try and increase our chances of getting an inquiry, which I think is important. And the more signatures we have on board, the better. So the petition is not just on social media; it's on Sale Before We Die's website as well. It's on Yuan Yang's website. So if you're not on social media, don't worry. There's still a link, in various places. I put it on Hobnob at anyone as well, which I haven't used in years.
Well, there's a blast from the past. Well. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I put it everywhere.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for jumping on today, and losing my voice, I'm so excited again. It's really, really good to see the football community just come together for our club as well. And you guys have worked incredibly hard. Obviously said with politicians as well. And hopefully there's an end in sight to this, and we can all move on with our lives. But it's really good to kind of have this in the background and kind of working for football in general, because we've said it time and again on this pod, and any modern football fan will tell you that football is a massively warped industry at the moment. It's not it's just not right, really. So hopefully this is the start of something really positive for everyone involved. Adam, we're going to let you go, because Ross is going to end up boring you with all his tactical nous about Birmingham and flat back fours and Christmas trees and stuff, and all the rest of it. So thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Today. Keep up the good work. And we're going to get into the second recap after this break, a recap of a very positive point against high-flying Birmingham. So we'll be right back after this short break. All right, welcome back to episode 409. That was Adam Jones from Sell Before We Die and STAR. He sits on both now, which is impressive, to say the least. Petition is gathering pace. Stuff off the pitch seems to be gathering pace. And the team didn't disappoint on it, did they, Ross Webber? We said last week with young Thomas Hill that we would absolutely relish a draw. And that's exactly what we got. A hard-fought point. Defensively outstanding is a strong word, but, very, very solid, very, very resolute. Mbenge was absolutely just unreal. Absolutely unreal on Saturday. Superb. Which ties in nicely with your video series about the centre-backs. If you've not seen those, they're live on Twitter, X, and Bluesky. Ross has got a new series. Actually, Ross, you talk about your new series before we talk about
Birmingham. All right. Well, no, there's a new series out. It's just for. I just wanted to do something that's a little bit more loose and didn't take a million hours to research. Like when Ben says, "Hey, Ross, tell us what's different about Sellers and Hunt teams." Takes a few hours of research. So these are just a little bit more simple and just putting out a series called Why You Should Watch Reading for both Reading and non-Reading fans. So if you've ever tried to get your mum, your aunt, your next door neighbor into the club, this is the series for you. But I was talking about Bindon and Mbenge because I think that, I don't know, they're both great, but whichever one you like more says a lot about what you like. In terms of football, worth noting, both of them made the SofaScore Team of the Week for League One this weekend. They were both very, very good. Funnily enough, there was a moment early in the game where Bindon made a mistake with his passing, but then actually solved it himself with his deflection. So why don't you talk about that while I cough my lungs out for a second here?
I was going to say, it's like you had an allergic reaction to a Bindon mistake.
Honestly, it's the worst thing ever.
The composure that he showed to get the ball back, was incredible. And he, very, very calmly. A lot of other defenders would have just hacked it, and he I think chested it, sort of rolled off his leg a bit, and then passed it out very calmly. So incredible composure, even when he makes a mistake. And that was the key point from Mbenge when he cleared off the line. That was from a Binder mistake where he probably should have done a lot better than he did. So they work very, very well together. There's a great synergy between the pair of them. Obviously, that's going to be on the trash heap of dreams come July when Bindon goes off to the Forest. But we're in a situation.
Sorry, it took me a second to realize that you meant that he's going to the tricky trees. I thought you meant the
actual forest.
He's just going into the forest. He's off.
But he, defensively very, very good. Pereira again, very, very solid. Michael Craig had probably one of his best games in a long time. He's had a bit of a dip in form that we've said recently about, over the last sort of 3 or 4 games or so. But he's really, really grown in confidence for a player that is playing out of position. And we were talking. We'll come to it later on, but we were talking in the group chat about players of the season. It's around that time people start to think about that, regardless of league position or whatever. We're coming to the business end of the season, and you would be surprised if those 3 players weren't in the mix. You really, really would in terms of consistency and performance.
Yeah, you can make a case for 4 or 5 guys right now. It's a stacked hand.
You were a little bit perturbed by the forward play.
Sure.
Obviously, the main change was Kelvin coming in for Wareham, or the change was Wareham coming in for was Kelvin coming in for Wareham. Even how did you feel about that? How did you see the final third working? Is it the weakest area of our team currently, given how we are playing in midfield and defence? Kind of where are we at with the final third?
Because it's funny. Like I thought against Shrewsbury when we were poor the week before, the forwards were the better players in my opinion than the midfield, and sometimes I don't know, the tiredness of the team. It's a small squad, kind of catches up with them a little bit in that regard. I think with the forwards, I kind of made it relatively clear that I think I like all the personnel that started on Saturday, and I think they did an okay job. I do prefer Jaden Wareham playing in that center forward role, and I do prefer Kelvin playing in that left wing role. Personally, I think that's the strongest front three we can put together. I thought that Mamadi Kamara started the game very well on Saturday. He had a decent attempted shot with his right foot on the volley that kind of came on him very quickly. And so I thought that was pretty good going. But in general, I think that Kelvin on the left and Wareham in the middle is just the best way for Reading to play. An idea of, you could kind of see an idea of how much more Chem was giving the team than Kamara as the game went on. If you took a look at the average positions, whereby I've talked about it before, but under Hunt, you tend to get 6 of the outfield players on the right side of the field on average and 4 of them on the left side. Well, when Chem and Mamadi Kamara did an old school winger switch at the weekend, the entire focus of the Reading team started shifting over to the left-hand side, which kind of gives an idea as to how much of an impact he was making in direct comparison to Kamara on the other side. So, yeah, I think that for me, you need a player like Wareham who doesn't seem to care if he's going to get hurt when he goes up in the air to try and knock the ball down, and just somebody who's really going to run around for you on the, just like harassing the back line, being a pain in the neck, keeping them honest, making them keep their offside line relatively low. I thought that Wareham had been growing into the role pretty well. I don't think there was any issue with starting Kelvin. And actually, I think that starting Kelvin at striker for this one was quite a good idea because he scored against Birmingham to score Reading's first goal of the season earlier in the year. So, good juju, good mojo, like roll it around, see what happens. But I did think that Reading's attack looked better once Wareham came on.
I thought he was very bright when he came on, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think what I've enjoyed watching, if you can enjoy watching this, but bear with me, is the way that he communicates with the other players. So he was very, very vocal about not getting a certain ball in a certain area. He was being very direct about where he wanted things to go. And any good striker, and I say that in inverted commas, needs to be able to communicate with the team around him. There's a lot of strikers, across the leagues that are just very quiet. They're not very vocal at all, and they will just... And I think Kelvin falls into that bracket sometimes. Like, I don't see him pointing or gesticulating, and I'm not saying that you need to be that person, but Wareham is very, very clear on how he wants the ball to be played into him. And I thought he was right.
I agree with you on that. It's almost like recovery speed, the speed with which they just get on with it and move on to the next play. Wareham just gets on with it quicker. Like Kelvin will take a second to complain to the ref or, be perturbed that he's been pushed or whatever. And I think that kind of goes into that sort of feeling I've had all year about wishing that Kelvin would use the fact that he is massive a bit more, because he has a frame that is more significant than a lot of the people around him. He should be using that as one of his weapons. And
I like Wareham. I like the way he plays. He plays with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He seems to have a good relationship from a personal point of view with a lot of those players as well. He's clearly very popular in the dressing room. So I'm not saying
chummy with Savage, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And Savage was incredibly vocal on Saturday as well. I thought he had a great game too. So, these players are just starting to hit form at the right time. I still maintain, however good that result was, that we will finish outside the playoffs. It's just a gut feeling I have at the moment. But
I think,
top 10, that's a great season for us. It's a great season.
Yeah, I think we've seen over the last kind of like 2 or 3 weeks that Noel Hunt is pretty good at setting up his team to get these sort of grind out results against teams like Birmingham, against teams like Huddersfield. Obviously there was Bolton and Charlton as well, examples of playing teams in situations where we might not have been the favourites and come out with a good result. I just think Noel Hunt loves that kind of game. He loves keeping it a bit quiet for 60 minutes or whatever, and then having a chance to be the dominating team in the late stages, which it's not the most exciting football, but it works.
A little bit more composure from Campbell and to some extent, Wareham potentially, and we could have nicked the game from him. It wouldn't have
I
been
thought
under
Wareham did the
there.
right thing there in that situation, by the way. Move the ball quickly from one side to the other. Like one touch less, maybe, would be the only criticism I would have there. And I agree. Like Chem's hit that right. This is the last chance I think we're talking about. Chem's hit that right into the teeth of the goalkeeper, as it were. But I think so. The thing I say with shot practice all the time, it's an inch on your foot. It's a few yards on the goal, right? And the power is completely changed if you get it just slightly off too. So yeah, there's another world where Chem loops that into the top corner and we've all had a lovely time. But I thought it was a pretty good result anyway.
Yeah, cracking result. All things considered, you can talk about the money all you want that Birmingham spent, but they still got to put it together on the pitch. And a lot of people saying, they weren't at their best, and there is an element to that, I guess. Having watched Birmingham, a number of times this season, they've obviously played better than that, but I think you've got to give us credit in terms of being able to nullify and be really, really belligerent defensively to block them out, restrict them to long shots. They had some wild lashes at the ball, and that's a compliment to how we set up to play. Like we frustrated them, and it's good to see that we can still bloody the nose of teams that are, a million miles from where we want to be currently, both on and off the pitch. So
I thought Nibs was good too, by the way. I just wanted to say, because I think I mentioned the week before he looked a bit tired and off it. But in this game, he had it was Paik on the other side. He had his number. He got him booked at one point, especially in the first half. Nibs was just first at every single ball that he was going for. Just the guy hardly got a touch on the ball in the first half, which was really, really good to see. So yeah, I think like you're saying though, they do okay against these teams, and I'm not 100% convinced they will make the playoffs at this stage though, because whether they can open up and play expansively and get wins at home against weaker opposition when they have to, that's kind of the question with this no Hunt team at the moment. I feel quite confident going into games like the one against Birmingham. I felt pretty confident going into this game that we weren't going to get thrashed.
Yeah, exactly.
Of, like how the result panned out, I was like, they could win this quite easily, but they'll only win it like 1 or 2. They're not going to thrash us because that's just not how we play. So
especially not at home anyway.
No, well, yeah. So anyway, not a bad result, and hopefully they can open it up and be a bit more expansive in the weeks to come.
Well, look, we're on 50 points, the golden 50. When we had Noel Hunt on the pod, which is still available, he said we just need to get to 50 as quickly as possible. We've done that before February's ended. All good. It's very, very promising to be knowing that we are going to be in League One at least next season. Possibly higher if we can get through the play. I don't know. But we'll see. But look, given everything, another season in League One is not the end of the world, and hopefully we can really kick on from there. There isn't too much in the mailbag. Regular listeners will know that we normally take a pause and a breather and allow you to get some crisps or a snack or whatever. I'll change gear if you're driving, if you don't change gear on long journeys. But we've got a few little bits that I'll read out now. It's mostly around the takeover and mostly around the statement today. I made a hilarious quip that my agenda was blown to bits because of this news. Literally blown to bits. Had it existed in the first place. Max said RFC admin heard it was a bad agenda, made up mostly of dad puns, so they took extreme measures to fix it.
We'd never. What are you talking about? That's not our kind of podcast. No, we don't do that sort of thing.
How dare you? Only one of us is a flipping dad, anyway. But yeah, we try, Max. I'm glad you're enjoying what we do, anyway. Jack Jones, pretty sure that's a clothing brand. Can we fill the Rivermead Leisure Centre pool with wine and have Amadou and Benge ride into it on an inflatable unicorn? Bakio Soka, and we all jump in. I don't like wine.
I don't mind. You don't like wine? Any of it?
No, especially not sweaty wine that's been in a pool.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I don't want sweaty wine, obviously.
Sweaty wine,
but yeah, like I could definitely see Mbenge kind of like giving it the whole like unicorn thing. Though, like he's definitely got that Saka vibe about him. He's always happy. All those kinds of things. I'm just looking into the email inbox because I thought we got an email. So
while you're doing that, a lot of people have been talking about celebrations as and when we're taken over. But there's only one thing to do, and that's to get the Amazons to play the SCL.
Oh yeah, you're definitely right. That's what Matt wanted and everything.
And it's what we want. It's what the punters want.
Do you know what? Since we had that, and that's been my favorite. By the way, I'm football all the time. But
All the
my
time.
favorite interview all the time. But my favorite interview so far has been the one with the Amazons. So I mean, and we've spoken to Sellers, who I'm slightly in love with. So go back and
Who?
go back and listen to the one with the Amazons, because I thought that was awesome. And when I hear Black Magic coming through, but when I get going in the morning, I turn on my Royals TV or whatever. It's just good. Gets me right in the mood right away, which
they're becoming very, very synonymous with the club, in terms of how it makes people feel. That's a real positive. So.
Yeah. I've got a question from the email. Here we go. I thought I did. So it's a little bit dated, but we're coming up on the. There aren't many more. There's no more games in February, which is funny because I told Sim midway through the month that I'd cover all the games in February, and there was like one left or something like that. So good timing, Russ. But in March, obviously, we've got our game of Wrexham. Wrexham falling off pretty quickly. The question comes from Alex Lovell.
Go on, Alex. We haven't heard from you, Fraser. Have you written us anything recently? I think he has, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's still writing for it. Tilehurst end writer.
What a ledge.
Alex Lovell. The question he has is about Sam Smith, but it's not about Sam Smith. It's about whether the Sam Smith transfer damages Parkinson's standing with Reading fans, in your opinion. And does that, him coming to loot the club, does that damage Parky's reputation, in your opinion, at all?
I think it's an interesting tact. I think it's very, very difficult. How would I know? I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's very, very difficult when you're a club legend and you're trying to do a job for your team that, there is now a weighty expectation on Wrexham to continue to do well, given the amount of money and everything else they have behind them. So when there is a possibility that you can get a player of Sam Smith's caliber, devil's advocate, I think 2 million is too much for Sam Smith. I think it's I think they were generous with that fee personally. I would have been happy with 1 million, 1.5 at a push, but 2's a dream scenario for us.
I can see real quick. I can see where you're coming from on that. The thing for me is the 3 seasons in a row of 10 League One goals.
True.
At that point, you have to get your money. As like a negotiator, you have to say, no, look, like I'm guaranteeing you 10. I'm selling you 10 League One goals. What are those worth to you? This is how much.
Still League One goals, though, aren't they? Like 2 million for a League One player, is still a lot of money.
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know. Anyway.
Brum bought on their Brum had 2 players go down with awful off the ball injuries, by the way. The first one was really horrendous. So get well soon to those players. But they brought on Alfie May after their second player had gone down, injured. And I'm like, how much did they pay for him in the summer?
Traditionally, they've massively warped the market, and we know that Wrexham have money, but I don't know. I'm not going to begrudge it. 2 million is great for us. I just think it's a lot of money. I think it's a lot of money for a league player who's not exactly the youngest either. And
I think it's a good time to sell him.
Yeah, and they're highly unlikely to get any resale value for him. They're not going to shift him for 4 million in 2 years' time. So there's that element. It's football. If it wasn't going to be Wrexham, it would have been someone else, because the minute that bid had turned down, people talk and the clubs go back in. I would be very, very surprised if Phil Parkinson thought twice about Reading personally. And he's one of the best players I've seen in the shirt, so it certainly doesn't affect how I feel about him as a Reading player. I don't necessarily think he's a great manager, but that's my
interesting point. I agree that he's a manager who can coach a certain style, and the time that he's had with Wrexham on that project has allowed him to create a really consistent environment. I definitely think he can create that. But he does appear to be higher up, now than he has been in quite a while in his management career. Like I think the only other time I remember him being this present in general football media is when Bradford City were on that League Cup run.
Yeah, I mean, he was with Charlton. He didn't do a great job there, I don't think.
Yeah.
Feel like he was with Bolton. I don't know if that's... I can't remember.
Maybe,
But anyway, Charlton
now
wasn't great.
Now that he's done this Wrexham job, though, you would think that he is probably going to be, when he's looking, if and when he's looking for jobs again, if Wrexham don't get promoted this year and are not looking like getting promoted next year, he will probably be moved on just because of the ambitions of that club. If he's looking for another job again, it's probably going to be League One and down now that he's looking at. So I imagine that while this Sam Smith thing doesn't necessarily change his perception with Reading fans at all, I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of Phil Parkinson in the next 10 years compared to the last 10 years or the last 20 years even.
I think you're right. I don't think he's brilliant, to be honest.
Smith,
not Parkinson. Parkinson as a manager. Smith.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't think that he is. He is absolutely fantastic. He was at Bolton. He was there for 3 years. Sunderland, he bombed at. He was there for a year, less than a year, and he's been at Wrexham for coming up 4 years now. So, it's not a bad return. But for me, he is one of the best Reading players I've ever seen. He was just on his day. It was phenomenal. Nothing fancy, all the simple stuff. But I mean, the effort levels and the commitment and the role modelling that he had on the pitch was second to none.
He's another one that for us younger fans, we don't have the memory, so it's kind of difficult to put him in there. And there's going to be a Why You Should Watch Reading coming out about the. I started thinking about it in terms of who Reading's rivals were, and then suddenly realized that there are some pretty huge generational divides in the Reading fan base based around, what leagues you have basically watched Reading in. And
it's probably the EFL really at the moment, isn't it? They're our biggest rival.
Yeah, the EFL, yeah. So Dai Young, that's our biggest rival right now. So, but yeah, just kind of interesting.
Thank you for that, Alex. It's good. We need to get you back. We say this about everybody. We need to get you back on the pod because you were great in the summer. And if you've not, I mean, Alex doesn't have social media, which is commendable in this day and age. But he does write a lot of stuff for us that you will see, on our social media or see on our website. But Alex is fantastic. Very, very good knowledge. Another overseas Reading fan. So yeah, if you haven't already, just have a little look at his articles that come out, sporadically on the website. He's got very, very, very good writing style. So thanks for that, Alex. Appreciate that. There was one more thing. Ginge Jericho. At this point, where it's with a G.
Oh.
Jericho.
Yeah, okay. We'll go with Jericho as in geriatric. Sorry, Jericho. Okay. I hope I did anyway.
At this point, I generally have given it a shoulder shrug. This is to do with the takeover. We've been here before more than once. We all know how it's ended. Want nothing more than for it to happen, but won't be celebrating until it's done, dusted, and the purple turtle is booked for the celebration. It's a good point. Like, it is a good point.
Almost don't want the purple tortoise booked for the next celebration. That's too close now. Just book a nice slug and lettuce.
Or cilantro in the hotel.
Is that what it's called? The hotel is called Cilantro.
No, there's a restaurant / bar in the hotel.
Okay, right. I was like, why is the hotel called Coriander?
Very, very exclusive. Very exclusive.
Hey, of course. Yeah.
Right, Tom's back. Tom Sheeran, he always gives us some nice bits. Good team performance against Birmingham, lack of quality in the final third, which is exactly what we're just saying. Will see us miss out on playoffs. Thoughts on that? Yeah, spot on.
I think we said that kind of. I agree. The issue is not getting results against the big teams. Reading can hang with any team. Reading can't really blow apart any team. Unless they're having a day where Wings decided that he's going to score goals from his own corner flag, is basically that's when we blow teams apart. So yeah.
Would a better manager get more out of this team, or is Hunt doing a grand job given the circumstances?
The only other person I would have wanted to see would have been James Oliver Pierce, just to see if some of those passing patterns of play could have been continued and improved upon. But I think that there's a huge difference between being a manager and an assistant manager. And I think that the way that Hunt has got us up for these decent results against the bigger teams in the division shows that he can do the manager part, he can do the head coach part, he can get people motivated and ready to go. I got no problems with the way in which, not maybe tactically, but certainly like mentality wise, Hunt can get the team ready to go most weeks.
It's not hugely different, is it? Really?
Yeah, I think that one of some of the main like takeaways from the were that it's a little bit more direct, especially away from home, and the fullback play is a little bit more traditional, but it's not a million miles away from where it was, for sure. And personnel has definitely been more of a, I think, defining factor with how the team is playing at the moment than the tactics massively. I don't think we're going to see much of a shift between now and the summer. The question will be, like if Hunt stays, what
did you just say
next year? Which he will do. I said.
Did you say shift?
Shift. I think.
Oh.
Yeah. Shift.
Goodness me! I thought you said something else. Then I was like, goodness me, this is a family show.
No. Not what you're talking about. It's not a family show.
Keep your potty mouth to yourself, Weber.
My apologies. Sorry.
Right. I can't even. I was going to say potty mouths and Wigan, but it doesn't link.
No, okay. Well, in a Wigan preview, they were excellent. Yes.
Yeah, whippets and gravy. Look, let's do the final part of episode 409, and then we can all go and have a long bath or whatever we do in the evenings, and or mornings if you listen to us in the morning, and we'll talk about a trip to the Athletic, not the publication, but the team. See you in a bit. All right, welcome back to the final part of episode 409. It's slightly buoyant today. We're in a good mood because we've had some good news.
Good news and published at the correct time. You get me?
Exactly. It's like it's just coming together like that.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, I'm moving my hands together and then interlacing my fingers to be like the world has come together.
Well, that actually, no, that's good because that gives us a segue nicely. We are on YouTube. You can watch this podcast right now if you want to. I see the YouTube watcher community is growing every week, and that's actually also a really great way to get us comments. And I read those. I go through and just check and see. If you call me mean or whatever, just remember who you're being mean to or whatever. So be nice. But other than that, the community is really good. And there's more stuff on the YouTube channel than ever before. Obviously, Ben's been making videos forever. There's still a whole backlog of tactics videos from the last year. There's my new Why You Should Watch Reading series. So there's more reason than ever before to be watching the Tilehurst Den YouTube channel. Lots of good content on the website. Yeah, do it all. Listen to us and then go and watch a whole other bunch of nonsense.
And we, as we said, we're always looking for extra people to come on the pod. Spoke to someone at the weekend before the game who's actually started writing for us. So big shout out to Ian. Absolutely fantastic articles he's been doing for us recently. But he mentioned he wanted to come on the pod, so he'll be coming on. I think next week. I think we said next week, but but it's good to get new people on and new ideas and stuff. And whilst we have a kind of a regular, band of trusted people, it's always good to give voices to other people to talk about their beloved football club, which of course is Reading, who go to 16th placed Wigan. Yeah. They are currently sat on 36 points. Tricky for them. They're not a million miles out of the relegation quagmire. Is it quagmire? Or is that the family?
That's right. Quagmire, that works. Yeah. Okay. It is a character in Family Guy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, they're on 36 points after 31 games, -3 goal difference. Not that that's really relevant, but they've had a fairly indifferent season. It's unlikely they would get drawn into the relegation battle. as we've said time and again, we probably think that the team.
They're only 4 points outside now. Burton have really started kicking on in the last couple of weeks. It's we're going to talk about Wigan, obviously, but just take a look. By the way, look how low Peterborough are at the moment. It's been a weird season for some of the clubs that were thought of as being, well placed at the start of the year, and I think that there's a few unexpected teams, in the top 10 in League One, including Reading, that are kind of throwing the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons, because there's a few clubs down there that have had pretty disappointing seasons.
It's going to be tricky for a lot of those teams, I think. I still think we're going to got enough to stay up. From our point of view, we head into the weekend's game with a 4-point cushion on Barnsley, who are in 10th, which is a nice position to be in. There is a possibility that we can break into the playoff paces this weekend if we win. We'd sneak into 6th, although goal difference dictates that possibly won't happen because Leyton Orient are on 19 and we are on 3. So what's that, an extra point, really, isn't it? A bit tricky. Ross,
have to play tomorrow, by the way, whereas we don't. So we're recording this on the Monday. They play on the 25th, whereas we have the whole week off, and they're having a horrid kind of run at the moment. Now, they had a 0-0 with Wickham. Obviously, Wickham are doing pretty well, and that was their most recent game, so that would indicate, they're at least be able to keep it solid in the most recent game. But so would the low goal difference, right? So I wouldn't be surprised, Reading fans, if this is another super exciting, the both teams produce less than 2 XG put together, and there's 1 or 2 goals maybe in it. I think last year we had a pretty quiet and dull game up at is it still the DW or the JJB?
No, the Brick Stadium.
Okay. Was this one the JJB Stadium at some point? Yeah, love that. Love a bit of that. I think that Reading could really do with kind of putting together a win against a notably bigger team at the moment. I know that Rotherham was a decent win, but Rotherham have also been having a pretty shocking season. So it would be nice for Reading to go and get a consistent win against a team that just an easy. Oh, sorry, what's the phrase here that I'm looking for? It would be nice for Reading to get a fairly comprehensive win against.
Smash them to bits. That's what you mean.
Smash them to bits. Have one of those days where Lewis Wing's scoring from the centre circle. Field day.
They do play tomorrow night. They play today because that's when the podcast come out. So Tuesday night, they're at home to Huddersfield.
That's another.
Which is again a positive situation for us because we got a week. So we Saturday to Saturday again. That doesn't last long, by the way. We're back at home next Tuesday against Exeter, and the games come thick and fast from then. But we've got a week's rest. We've got opportunity to get some players back. Under 21s, I believe, are in action at the Stade de SCL tonight. Yeardom's playing as well, so that he's not going to be a deal breaker. All due respect to him, but it's good to get bodies back through the door in terms of being able to be in competition.
Under 21s appear to be playing a 4-2-3-1, by the way.
Tonight.
No, just in general. Recently, I saw that the most recent game where Yeardom was playing, they had Billy Bowden playing in a 10 spot in a 4-2-3-1, which is as we talked about. No offense to Billy Bowden, we haven't seen anything yet from him, but hopefully maybe a position change or something would help. I'm not really sure, but yeah, interesting that they're doing that 4-2-3-1, given that we had talked about whether that might be a good formation for this squad recently.
Good to have versatility. It's good to have versatility. Look, I mean, the question marks remain over the front three. Personally, I'm still not convinced on Kamara, and I think my change would be bringing Wareham back in and pushing Kelvin out to the left.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I think someone said, it may have even been you, someone in the group chat this weekend said something like, Kamara's had an awful long time now to kind of show us something.
It's definitely me.
Yeah.
I said it last week, didn't I? I said he made 50 appearances for us, and I still don't see the value.
There you go. Yeah. So whereas alternatively, Mbenge made his 100th performance, and you absolutely see the value. He's just one of those 100 emojis with lots of red lines under it. That's Mbenge. And he added another one when he got that goal line clearance this weekend. So, yeah, thank you, Mbenge.
Changing the subject slightly, did you see that I just made a sudden movement there, Ross, or did you not really notice it?
I didn't notice it. What kind of sudden movement?
I just got cramp in my leg.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I thought I didn't make a noise. I just calmly, professionally got on with it. So I didn't know if you'd see me suddenly jolt and try and stretch my leg out and press it to the ground. But
you didn't see me get very distracted when the skidoo came out from the snow bluff either. So, we're doing very good. We're both doing very good, listeners.
Well, look, if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe see the exact moment these things happen to us.
Right, right. If you could predict the moment that the snowplow or the snowmobile came out from the side there,
Cramp's ridiculous, isn't it? What is cramp? Stupid.
All right, well, we should probably let you go so you can deal with that and let the listeners deal with any cramp they might have as well. Yeah.
I think that we will get a positive result on Saturday. I think we'll win.
Yeah, I think we'll be
so
right.
too.
Yeah,
I think we're confident after Saturday.
Especially if they get beat again by Huddersfield, and any kind of momentum is chucked into the toilet, then I think that we should be looking for a positive result for sure. But I always do.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Listen, if you're going up to is Lancashire, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I always get my northern counties confused.
Why are you asking somebody who's from the south and hasn't been in the country for a decade whereabouts Wigan is? I ain't got a clue. I thought it was part of Greater Manchester.
What, Wigan? No, you're thinking of Bolton.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Don't trust.
Whatever. Wigan's Wigan. Not a bad stadium.
Do you like Wigan?
What, as a place?
Town? Yeah.
I can't honestly remember it. The stadium was really good. I'm not saying because I was, doing something else. I just don't remember it in the same way that I feel about other places.
I've started keeping my list of Ben's S-holes of the UK. So
just put Wigan as indifferent / can't remember.
Well, no, so that's not an S-hole then, is it? Like,
no.
Yeah.
It probably is. It probably is.
But when you vocally say immediately, as soon as the town is brought up, I can't hack that place. That's when it goes down. All right. So that's. I'm keeping a tally, listeners, and I'll let you know by the end of the season how many towns are on Ben's shit list. There you go. Yeah, that time I did say the S word.
Let's have it.
Yeah.
Ross, thanks as always. Hope you have a good, enjoyable week.
Thank you. You as well.
Well, we'll chat next Monday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to actually being able to cover games at the moment because it's school break. So, yeah.
There you go. Exactly that. What was I going to say? I don't know. Have a good week, everybody. Chins up. We're nearly there. We can taste it. We can just about taste that takeover. It tastes like
the nuggets are almost the correct temperature to eat. Almost, guys.
Exactly. Thanks as always for listening and tuning in. Really appreciate it. We know it's been incredibly difficult at times to get enthused about this club, but hopefully, and we've said this so many times over the last 500 days, but it can't go on, can it? It can't. Surely it can't. Have a really good week. We will see you next Monday, and come on, you Oz.